Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and I have decided that in 2023 I will spend the entire year competing in Europe. And just like this year on the DGPT, I really want to bring all of you with me. So I'll be making videos just like I've been doing every step of the way, starting with the planning of the tour. Now, if you're enjoying my tours, you can buy my tour series discs at scottstokely.net. All right, so right off the bat, I am not taking my eye off the prize. I'm going to win the Portland Open this weekend. I'm going to win the World Championships. I'm going to win USDGC. I have every intention of smashing the rest of the season, but I can't wait till November to start preparing for the European Tour. I have to start preparing now, but don't think that I'm looking ahead. No, I got my eye on prize, promise. So where this all starts is I said I decided to go on tour. And this is important that I decided to go. And this is something that I've learned is that if I want to do big things, if I plan on them or I intend on doing them or I think it would be fun to do them, I don't do them. It's deciding to do them. It's not semantics. It's a decision. It's already been made. I'm going. Of course, things can get in the way. I mean, the world's weird. But mindset, it's a decision. It's happening. As I started planning my tour, or as I'm starting to plan, the first thing that I needed to do was identify my motives for going. And I think this is actually really, really important because I got a lot of decisions to make. And if I'm loosey-goosey on why I'm doing this, I might not make the best decisions. You know, am I just trying to have fun? Or am I going to compete because I want to win national titles in different countries? Or is it because I made so many great friends this year from Europe, and I was going to start naming names, but as soon as I do, I would be leaving so many people out, and I can't pronounce some of them anyways. So, but I had to figure out, why am I going, you know, or am I just going to promote my brand? You know, I mean, is it good for my business to do this? And the answer is it's all those things. But there's one reason I'm going that trumps everything else, and that is I just want new experiences. You know, we are full-time nomads. We live on the road. We're never going to have a home because having new and unique experiences is the number one driving factor in my life. And that's going to not just impact, that will make just about every decision that I have for the European Tour. All right, so number one, I don't know anything about disc golf in Europe. I feel really bad about this, but I've been so focused on the DGPT, and before that I was so focused on teaching, like I didn't really know what was happening in Europe. I mean, I know Finland has blown up, and I know Estonia is blowing up. I mean, I follow, but the actual tour I was ignorant of. So I had to start doing research, and the first things I found, I'm going to share with you, and I'm probably going to even get some of this wrong. In fact, if I get something wrong, please let me know in the comments where I'm wrong. Contact me and help me out because I need all the help I can get in the planning. But the first thing I figured out is there's actually 2 tours in Europe. And I wasn't sure if like one of them was a major tour and one of them was like a startup or something. So I dug a little deeper, and the first one was the European Pro Tour. And the European Pro Tour has a bunch of awesome events. They kind of remind me maybe of what the DGPT is doing because they have 2 tiers of events. They have their elite events, which there are 5 of, but they also have their Elite X events, which I think are kind of like Silver Series events. You know, they're still awesome events. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9 events. Awesome events. But maybe they're newer or they have less sponsorship money, less media, but still, like, these are still the best events in Europe. I started thinking, well, what about this other tour? Is is the Disc Golf Your Tour then like a second tier tour? And the answer is no, not at all. These kind of remind me of what the NT events were. Again, this is how I'm visualizing it. Don't get mad at me if I get it wrong, but the first thing I noticed was that Nokia's on there. Like, Nokia is a massive, huge, major event. So obviously this is not a second tier tour. They're both amazing tours. So the next question is, well, two questions. Number one is, do they set themselves up geographically for somebody to get in a vehicle and go from event to event? And it's not an obvious question, because that's a fairly recent phenomena in disc golf, that it's the tours set up that way, or they've done a really good job of it. I don't know if people are actually on the road touring Europe. And if there's not people actually on the road touring Europe, there is no reason to set up events geographically in any type of pattern. So I had to look to see if they were set up that way. And the second thing is, do these two tours get along? Or even if they don't get along, do they collaborate with each other to make sure they're not conflicting? It's in their best interest to not conflict when possible. But I wasn't sure. And this, by the way, I don't know anything about next year's tour, but I was looking at this year's tour to get a feel for it. In fact, I've heard they're making some changes next year. I mean, I guess you always will. But so the first thing I did is and this is something I have to do, and I think it's because I grew up this way, but the only way I've ever been able to set a tour up is on paper, actual pen and paper, actually pencil and paper, for obvious reasons. What I do is I set up every single month down one side, and then columns for every single weekend. This is just to get a rough idea, first, second, third, fourth weekend. And then I just put the country names of the events. I didn't care which tour, if it was Elite Series or the X Series. I just put all the events on here by country. I know what Europe looks like. And so I could visualize, just based on countries, how it sets up geographically. And right off the bat, one thing that's became pretty obvious, which I assumed would be the case, Scandinavia is up north, including Estonia, of course. And so there's a much shorter season for them. You're not going to run the big Scandinavian events in February or November, of course. So it makes sense that you would have some of the events that are more southern earlier, later in the season, and then you head up north. So, for instance, you got Croatia in March, the first event on any of these. And then you have the last 4 events of the year, Spain, Hungary, and Belgium, at the end of the year. So whether or not they're trying to set themselves up geographically, they kind of have done it automatically, simply because all of the northern events are grouped into a several month period. So that's going to be easy. Now, as far as the events conflicting with each other, there's a little bit of that, but not a lot. It seems like they are working together to some extent, whether it's the tour or the individual events, trying to not cannibalize their market. They have done what appears to be a pretty good job of separating the events. It's not perfect, but there's only so many weekends in the summer where you can run events. If there's 10 weekends in the summer and there's 10 tournaments on those weekends, you can't really tell a new tournament not to exist, right? They're going to have to schedule and conflict. It's just the way it works. So I don't expect it to be perfect, but they've done a pretty good job. And so it looks like we're heading south in the beginning of the year, heading north to Scandinavia, heading back south again. Geographically, it totally works. Now, when we are deciding which events to go to on conflicting weekends, this is what's great about isolating that the primary goal is new experiences. Because if there are conflicting events, but one of those events is in a country that we've already been to and or competed in, and another one is in a country we haven't been to, we're going to the new country. Like every single time without exception, we're going to go to the new country, even if it's a smaller event, even if there's less media. The new experience and meeting new people and new cultures, and like that comes first. So the scheduling seems to lay itself out pretty well. The biggest events don't seem to conflict. They're all pretty close together. One of the things I've read when I did a little bit of research, where people are talking about certain trips being like really long drives. You know, it's a 6 hour drive, it's a 10 hour drive. And like we kind of rolled our eyes at that. That's like nothing to us. So what might even seem like a big distance between events for someone who doesn't travel full time is like nothing to us. So we're gonna get to play most of the events. The schedule seems to work itself out. Obviously next year, a new schedule will determine exactly where we're gonna be. But I want to work with the tours directly. I want to make sure that I'm able to get into all the events. For sure, I'd like to do that. I also, this is a big one. And I think this is going to be fantastic for all of you more than anything, if you're following, is that I contacted it's MDG Media. They're I think the biggest media company out there. I know there's one in Finland that does a great job, but MDG is covering hopefully all of the events or most of the events. And when I was looking at the views they get, it's obviously far less than the US events, which is understandable, right? There's a bigger audience over here. But I contacted them and I said, we should collaborate on something collaborate on some of the tour, because I can put a lot of American eyes on what you're doing. I could definitely increase your view count by a measurable amount just by promoting it through this collaboration. But also, I can get a lot more footage, certainly more than I'm able to get on the DGPT tour, because if I work with them to get more footage of me playing. And I think that between the two of us, we could actually put eyes on each other. And I think it could be a fantastic venture to try to work together. So I contacted them, nicest people I've ever talked to in my life, probably. They're really cool, super professional. We didn't make any plans, but hopefully we'll get to coordinate this a little bit more to get some more high-end tournament footage while I'm out there competing. So that's what we're doing. My computer shut off. I'm not going to turn it back on. I hope you all enjoy this. There might not be a European update for a few months because it is still a ways away, but anytime something happens, I will be letting all of you know, because look, as much as I love traveling with Adriana, I would love traveling with 50,000 of you even more. I really want you to come along. I'm going to try to make this the most entertaining, informative, unique disc golf content out there as I get to experience all these new incredible places and people. So I hope y'all come along with me. Make sure you subscribe. That tells YouTube my content's worth watching. Share it to your social media. It's how I get more viewers. And if you feel like buying something, go to scottstokely.net. All right, thanks everyone.